Hello everyone, in this video I'll be going over all the modifications I've done to my 2008 Toyota 4Runner, both inside and outside. I've had this vehicle just over a year now, so I'll go over all the different things I've done to it from when I first bought it. When I bought the car, I didn't really have any intentions of going crazy on modifications. My idea was this was going to be a great vehicle to take for road trips as well as haul the dogs around from point A to point B. So I wasn't planning to spend too much money on anything on the car, and overall, I wanted it to still be reliable. And, I didn't want to put anything on it that would break. That being said, it's still a 16-year-old vehicle, so there are a lot of maintenance items that I took care of right off the bat when I bought it. I changed all the fluids, changed the spark plugs, changed the oil, of course, checked all the other areas for inspection. The most notable replacement items I had to do were the front lower control arms. The bushings were completely shot, which I found out when I was installing the lift, and I had to get new bushings for those, as well as installing a new knock sensor on the front, which was a pain to get to and involved a lot of different components to come off the engine, but overall wasn't too bad to replace. So now that I had the vehicle in good condition with all the repairs done, I started on the modifications. So let's start with the lift. The lift is a Daystar spacer lift. It's 2.5 inches in the front and 1.5 inches in the rear. And basically this is just using your stock suspension and putting spacers on top of that to give you a higher ride height. I installed the lift myself. The lift kit itself was only $100. I think it was an open box set from Amazon, so lucked out there with that. Still brand new condition, installed that. I did have to get new upper control arms, which was about $200, and then I had to get alignments after the lift was installed. I'd say alignments because after my first alignment, we found out that the lower control arm bushings were completely shot, like I said. So I had to replace those then and then go and get another alignment. So for the lift, all in all together, it was about $400. The next biggest modification goes hand in hand with the lift, and that is the tires. So I upgraded from the stock wheels and tires and ended up going with the TRD Pro rims, as you can see, as well as BfGoodrich 275/70 R17s. The rims, the TRD Pro rims, I actually bought straight from the dealer, bought them online, and they were with free shipping. I think it was around $700 for all four of them, which is a great deal, in my opinion, compared to some of the other options you have online. And then the BfGoodrich KO2 set me back about $900. I got those through Costco, installed those, and overall, I love the look, and they've been great on the car so far. I also installed wheel spacers to give the vehicle a bigger offset on the front and the rear. The fronts have 1.25 inches, and those are the Spidertrax hub-centric spacers, and the rears have all pro 1.5 inches to kind of give it a little bit wider stance in the rear. With the larger wheels and the larger offset with the spacers, I did have to cut some of my front fender and also do a body mount chop on the rear of the front fender well. So wasn't really expecting to do that, but it wasn't too bad if you have basic tools for cutting metal and things like that. The next modification I'd like to talk about is the front grille. So this front grille is actually a combination of the stock 4Runner grille as well as the inner portion from a TRD Tacoma 3rd gen grille. I bought that grille off the Tacoma from a guy on Facebook Marketplace and basically just modified it to fit, and I love the way the final look came out to be. Moving on to the rear of the vehicle, I bought a TRD black exhaust tip. Hopefully this will last longer than some of the other ones you can find on eBay, and this is basically purely for aesthetic reasons. Also in the rear, I've added some auxiliary reverse lights tied into a switch in the cabin so I can turn them on whenever I want if the car is on or off. And then I've also added a receiver hitch. The receiver hitch is from a company called Metaltech 4x4. It was under $100 shipped, came with all the bolts you needed, and mounted directly to the 4Runner in the rear where the stock hitch would go. The only modification I needed to make was to the plastic bumper, as you can see, just cutting out one of the notches to make room for the new hitch. All right, now moving on to one of the modifications that I am most proud of is going to be my area scene lights that are mounted at every single corner of the stock roof rack. These are great for around camp or just anywhere in dark we need to light up the sides of the vehicle. I actually designed these mounts, printed them on my 3D printer, and then mounted them up and wired them up myself. So with the flick of a switch, I can go from dark area around the vehicle to very bright without being overpowering. So this is great for around camp or anywhere where you just need a good amount of light around you. These are the same lights that I have mounted on my frame that act as kind of area lights that light up whenever you open up a door. I wired them into a switch so they're automatically turning on whenever a door's on, and then they go off automatically whenever the door's off. Next, let's talk about blacking out the chrome. So for the door handles, I just bought some covers that go over the stock handles, which actually turned out great. And then for the rear trim piece where the Toyota logo is, I ended up just finding the same part but in galactic gray, same color as my car, on eBay. And so then I just swapped out the chrome one for that one entirely. All right, so now that we've talked about the exterior modifications, let's move on to the inside and talk about the modifications in here. So first thing first, you're probably going to notice this gigantic screen that I have mounted here. So this is a Join 10.1 double din head unit. So it's an entire swap of the stereo, not just a screen on top. I've had it for about a year now with no issues, and it's been excellent. It has wireless CarPlay and has maps, has everything added in, and really transformed the interior of the car, and is definitely the first thing that everyone notices whenever they get into the car. The screen's really bright, works with my steering wheel controls, and has been awesome. If you go onto the Join website right now, I believe they have it marked at right around $400. It did take about 2 months to get shipped to me, but that's just part of the deal when you're buying something from China. Since this is running on the Android software, it basically acts like an Android tablet whenever you're not connected to your phone via CarPlay. That being said, if you connect it to a hotspot, you can connect to apps like Netflix, YouTube, Disney, Prime Video, really anything you want since you're using this as a tablet in this case. When I bought the head unit from the Join website, I also elected to get the backup camera and wired that in to the top spoiler. As you can see here, the picture is great, comes on right when you put it into reverse and goes back to the screen you were previously on. Before I installed the Join head unit, I took it apart to see what it looked like on the inside. I wasn't surprised to find out that there really weren't any fans or anything to kind of dissipate heat inside the head unit, and heat is the number one cause of electronic failure in these head units, especially in the summertime. So to counteract the heat buildup, I added a heat sink on top of the main processor and a fan that runs whenever the head unit is turned on to kind of help cool everything down. Here's a picture I took during the installation of the head unit with the dash kind of all taken apart. You can see all the wires, but don't be alarmed. It's really not that difficult, especially if you order the correct wiring harness that Join has on their website. I highly recommend buying the Toyota wiring harness. It just makes the installation so much easier. All right, so moving on from the head unit, next let's talk about the switches I've added into the panel here on the left side of the steering wheel. So the top switch with the DL in the middle is a 3-position rocker switch that controls the driving lights of the vehicle in the front. So those are those orange parking lights that are on. And I have it set to be on whenever the car is on, even when the lights are on. From the factory, the driving lights turn off whenever the headlights turn on. Then, as you can see on the bottom row of switches, I've added 2 new switches, one for the side lights that we talked about earlier on the stock roof rails, and then one switch for the rear lights that we talked about earlier next to the trailer hitch that I can turn on whenever I want. The next switches I added in are on the center console. The one on the left is for the footwells, so I can have those on whenever I want, or have them on A for auto to turn on whenever the door is on. The rock lights, these are the lights that are under the doors. A for auto, so they turn on whenever a door goes open, or on whenever I want. Then this is my phone mount. So this is actually a wireless charger, and then whenever I place my phone in the mount, the clamps on the side will close and hold the phone in place. This is great for holding the phone in a good position to see any maps or any notifications on your phone while charging it. Now up here at the rearview mirror, we have a lot of stuff going on. So first is the radar detector, and then a antenna for the radio, as well as another antenna for the remote start system. And then we have my dash cam that is recording all the time. To really give the inside of the 4Runner a modern look, I've replaced all the yellow LEDs in the instrument cluster and the AC panel to these white LEDs, which really improves on the look and makes it look cleaner and more modern. Now, as I said earlier, I'm using this vehicle a lot to haul my dogs around, so I wanted to keep the seats safe, especially when the dogs are muddy. So I added some rubber mat material held on by these clips. If I were to do it over again, I would just use double-sided adhesive that they use for carpets. For the rear cargo section, I just got one of those one-size-fits-all mats that you can buy and trim to fit. This is a look at the inside of the car at nighttime with all the LEDs upgraded. really brights up the space. The footwells aren't that purple, it's just the camera making it look that way. The final modification I'd like to talk about is going to be the window tint. So as you know, the front driver and passenger side windows are not tinted from the factory. Here I added 15%, that's 15% ceramic tint to the front windows, and then I asked the tint guy to just match the backs to the same percentage of tint. The rear windshield is at 5%, and then I also asked for a front windshield sunstrip at the top, which is also at 5% tint. Alrighty everyone, well that wraps up all the major modifications I wanted to share with y'all. Hopefully that gives you some good ideas on your own project that you may be working on, or just ideas for a vehicle you may be looking into. As far as future modifications on my 4Runner, I'm not planning on anything crazy. I'll probably just focus on maintenance, seeing that this is already at 120,000 miles, and I don't really need to do any other changes for the use case I have. It's only two-wheel drive. I don't really go off-roading that much. And I think I've accomplished everything that I was looking for. Thank you for watching. I'll put all the links to helpful tips and items that I've talked about in this video down in the description below. And let me know if you have any other questions or comments, and I can respond to those in the comments section.